Welcome everyone to our WCSE MicroLearning. We're so happy you're here. We're very grateful to OCSE and their team today for giving us some presenters and some of their time in this microlearning. I'm just watching the attendance go up. We're up somewhere around 530 people, so quite a popular topic. We're glad you're here. Lots of first timers and lots of representation from all over the country, both local, county, state offices, tribes. So very excited to have you all here. The idea of microlearning kind of stemmed from the idea that adult learning happens better in chunks, that we learn better in small increments. So we put together this program of microlearning topics. And at the end of this session today, we'd love to hear your feedback and ideas on future topics that you'd love to hear from or hear about, or speakers that you have that would be good to bring into our program. Just a little about Zoom. We are on regular Zoom, so you will come into the session with yourself muted, but if you have a question, you can unmute. Because there are so many folks, we're going to handle questions in the chat box. So if you have questions, please feel free to put those into the chat box. We'll be able to hopefully get to some of those questions, and if there are follow-up questions, all of our presenters have their contact information in the slide deck and are happy to have follow-up conversations or talk to you offline as well. So again, very happy you're here, and I'm going to turn it over to Daryl Watts, who is a member of our WCSE Planning Committee, as well as a program specialist in policy and training for OCSE. So I'll turn it over to you, Daryl. Thanks.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome again to our WCSE MicroLearning. Today, we're going to be talking about modernizing your casework using the OCSE's Child Support Portal. And I'll be where you'll learn information about employers. You'll learn information about where to send income withholdings. These are different resources that are available on the portal that can help you to better facilitate your caseload. I bring to you three dynamic speakers who are ready to just share that information with you. First, I'll start off with Jay Butler. He's with the Office of Child Support Enforcement, Division of Federal Systems, where he works with state programs and state programs with the tribal as well as state child support programs to expand their use of the FPLS, or what's commonly referred to as the Federal Parent Locator System. We also have Lisa Ellington, who's also with the Division of Federal Systems, where she works with Regions 4 and Regions 8 to help them to maximize use of the FPLS system. And finally, we have Courtney Garman, who works again in the same Division of Federal Systems as a liaison, a technical support liaison, and she supports Regions 5, 6, and 7. And all of them work together to best provide the resources that are needed for the Federal Parent Locator System. They all have years of child support experience in working in different venues, some with the state disbursement units, others working in capacities where they help to actually build child support systems. So you can actually take a look at their bio in our landing page, the WCSE landing page, where you'll be able to find additional information about them. So right now I'm going to turn it over to Jay Butler, and he will go ahead and begin this presentation for us.
Hi, so I'm Lisa Ellington. I'm actually going to start it today. Jay's going to be a little bit later, and I am the technical support liaisons for Region 4 and 8. I'm coming to you live from Houston, Texas, where we have the Johnson Space Center. If you get a chance to come here in the future and visit NASA, it's pretty cool. They just opened up the old Mission Control Center, so you can tour it now. It's the place, the original Houston, we have a problem, set up with monitors and video, and it looks just like it did when Neil Armstrong said the Eagle has landed. So it's pretty cool. So maybe in the future, if you ever come down to Houston, you might want to check that out. And on that note, today we're going to talk about modernizing casework using the Child Support Portal. And what's more modern than to talk about the future? So we're going to actually talk about some things that are going to be coming out, and that we want your feedback before they're delivered. So we want to give you a sneak peek. So we're pretty excited, and we thought this was a pretty good vehicle to be able to show this to you all and then gather some feedback so that we can incorporate it and make it what you want it to be. But anyway, so we've got some big changes coming, and that's what we want to talk about. We're going to be working on the portal and kind of changing how it's all set up. It's going to be kind of a really big, I don't want to say overhaul, but kind of. It's going to be a very, very big change. So a little bit about this history, about what's happening. Back in 2017, the Division of Federal Systems began an analysis project to start looking at a more comprehensive way for caseworkers to go in and view the portal. Currently, when you go out and look at the portal, it's designed by application. So, for example, if you want to perform a locate request for someone, you're going to go to the locate application and submit that request. And then you're going to go back out and, view your responses. If you want to send a document to another state, you're going to go to the electronic document exchange application and use that. So everything's designed by application. This new consolidated view that we're working on aligns more with a caseworker's viewpoint. So with this new view, you're going to be able to go to the landing page and you're going to be able to type in an NCP's SSN or a case ID, and then you're going to be able to view information for that case or participants kind of in one spot mostly. So it'll all be there. It's sort of a holistic view. So for example, if you want to see what locate information is available for an NCP, you can enter their SSN, and then you'll go to that information, and everything will be in one place. So I think we need to go to the next slide, Courtney. Okay, so where are we in this process for this consolidated view, for modernizing the portal? We just completed the analysis phase, so that just wrapped up. We're going to start the next phase, which is going to be the design phase, in early 2021. Once that's completed, we'll move into the final phase, which will be development. So we do have a little bit of a ways to go. We're not there yet. We've got, maybe a year, a little bit longer than a year, maybe 2 years. But we wanted to bring it to you now so that you have an opportunity to provide feedback, to let us know if there's something, like, oh, please, include this or change this, because the portal is designed for you and we want it to reflect what you need. So it's critical that we gather that and make sure that we incorporate it. So it's not just us coming to present. We actually are coming with a mission to be able to bring something back to say, here's, people have spoken, here's some things that they want to see with it. So the next thing we want to do is we want to look at some of the mock-ups for the screen so you can see what it's going to look like and what it's going to feel like. And as we go through this, if you all have questions or, comments or whatever, we'll pause. If you want, I think we're using the chat feature. So if you want to put your questions and comments in chat, we'll be going through those live as we go. And now I'm going to turn it over to Courtney Garnand, and she is in Norman, Oklahoma, home of the OU Sooners.
Thanks, Lisa. Welcome, everybody. As Lisa mentioned, we're really excited about the new modernization of the Child Support Portal, where we're going and leaving behind the stovepipe application view and moving towards more of a consolidated view where you're able to do more proactive searches for participants in your cases. And so what I wanted to share with you today are just some of the mock-ups of the screens that we have so far. And as Lisa mentioned, these are not final. We do have these marked as draft because we are moving into the design phase and we do want to get more feedback from the users. So if you, as we're going through these, have questions or comments or feedback, we'd love to hear them. You can also provide those to you, and we'll give our contact information at the end of the presentation as well. But we'll go through some of these, and then I'm going to have Jay Butler go through some as well, and we'll stop and make sure that there's plenty of time to ask questions and make comments. But with that, the first thing I want to show you is the proposed portal welcome page. As you can see, it looks pretty familiar. It does look a lot like the current one, but there are quite a few updates and new features that will be available on the portal welcome screen.
Courtney, this is
Yes?
Jay. I'm sorry, but we're not seeing the screen. We're just seeing the PowerPoint.
Are you? Okay. Well, let's try this again. Thank you for saying something, Jay. I was just going right along with it. Let's see. Can you see it now?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, great. So thanks for letting me know that. So anyways, this is the portal welcome screen, or the proposed one that we have. As you can see up at the top, you still have the familiar menu bar where you've got where you can select certain applications. There's still the link where you can provide feedback on portal enhancements, the frequently asked questions, and then also the contact us links. We still are keeping in the spotlight where we provide blurbs about upcoming information and newsworthy items that rotate through a carousel. There's usually about 4 or 5 messages at a time that will rotate through here. But one of the biggest changes here is, instead of having the FCR query application, we now have the SSN or case query right on the home page. So as Lisa mentioned, in prior versions of the portal, you would go into each stovepipe application, and if you wanted to locate a participant, you'd go to locate and look them up, and then if you wanted to send something via EDE, you'd go over to EDE to do that. With this new approach, you're going to be accessing everything through either the social security number or the case ID, and then going from there, so you don't have to keep re-entering that information as you navigate through the different features and applications, so to speak. So you will be able to select from this drop-down either the social security number of the participant that you're searching for or your state's case ID, and hit go, and we'll show you what that will look like here in a second. But another new update that we are doing, and we're pretty excited about, is the consolidated data view dashboard, where you'll have a notification center. This will be tied into your profile, so you'll be able to receive notifications when you receive locate responses that have come back, or let you know when your county has received EDE requests, or your DOD entitlement responses that you've sent out have come back, and things of that nature. So this is going to be really helpful to help you kind of navigate and manage those cases through the portal. You'll also notice on the right-hand side, you'll have the Communication Center. This is another project that OCSE is working on, but it's two-way communication where you'll be able to exchange messages through the portal with other states and employers and so forth, and we'll provide more information about that at a later time. But I just wanted to let you know that we've got this notification center. Down at the bottom, we still have the helpful information section, the calendar, and the quick links that you're familiar with.
Hey, Courtney, this is Jay. I was just wondering if I could pause for just a second, because I saw it come into through chat, and I think it would be good to address this one as we go into the screen. That everyone will understand, because I'm sure many will have the same question. The question was whether or not the user would have to have a specific role in order to use the SSN case query function from the welcome screen. That is not our intent. So one of the purposes of this project is to try to reduce the number of user roles that states have to manage. And in doing that, we are proposing that the portal have default functionality for all users, anticipating that any child support user would need to have access to simple tools like the FCR query and locate or EDE. So those roles, with the exception of the management aspects, will likely be consolidated into a default role that a portal user would have, so that you don't have to manage all of the different roles. We also realize that there may be situations where you may want to give a user access to certain features in the portal, but not to other child support features like case information. And we will be providing an opportunity for states to assign this exclusion role for those people that maybe they don't want to have that default functionality. So it gives you plenty of options, but the hope is that it's going to cut down on the number of user role assignments that you have to make.
Good point.
Sorry, I didn't mean to derail you.
Oh, no, absolutely. Jump in. You can see the chat feature better than I when I'm looking at this. So if you see anything that's timely, please jump in and let me know. All right. So moving on, as I mentioned, you still will have the ability to select certain applications. So if you need to go into EDE directly without going, through a case, or if you need to go into FCR misidentified participant, you will still have those options where you can access it through the regular method versus the consolidated data view way. So when you select a SSN to search or a case ID, it will pull up the information for you in, like we said, in a consolidated way. So this is, these first couple of screens are kind of like what you would see on the original FCR query application with a lot more information. So in this example, we had entered in a particular SSN, and it pulls up all of the cases, open cases that are on the FCR for that particular participant. And so you can see here the participant had a case in Delaware, Maryland, and Virginia. Okay, and you get the information about their social, their participant type, case type, whether it's a 4D or a non-4D, whether or not an order is in place on that particular case, and then you have certain actions that you can take on the case level. If your state is participating in QUIC, the Query Interstate Cases for Kids, you can click on QUIC and access QUIC directly from the consolidated data view, and it will fill in that information for you so you don't have to type that again. You also have the ability to go in and request an EDE document directly from this screen, so that way you don't have to retype all the case information for the other state. Okay. When you select a participant, you also will see all of the case information up at the top, and then you can see all of the participants on the participant tabs for that particular case. So you see here that we have John Doe, Jane Doe, and the child James Doe. You have all of their information. Again, all of the high-level case information up here as far as the court order and case type, what county and state the case is being handled in. That is all up here at the top under case information, and then you have a little more detailed information about each participant. You can select a particular social security number in the table to view even more participant information for that particular person. So here we selected John Doe, and you can see here that we've listed not only the primary SSN, but if there are any additional or multiple SSNs. Anytime you see a plus sign next to the information, that means that there is additional information that you can see, just like on the name. A plus sign would indicate that there are maybe aliases that they go by as well. You can see whether or not that social security number has been verified. You also get information like the date of birth, their gender, and member ID for that particular case. You can also...
Here, I'm going to pause for just a second.
Sure.
We're getting a lot of questions about a specific topic. And I wish I had better news to give you on this, but unfortunately, the prohibitions on sharing information for people who have a family violence indicator attached would still apply to this version of the portal.
Yes.
With that said, we are aware of the challenges that presents, and we are exploring options. We're restricted by the Code of Federal Regulations as to how we can disclose that information. So what we're trying to do is work internally to determine whether or not there may be certain elements that can be shared without revealing the the information that would be associated with someone's location. Stay tuned. That's probably not something that's right around the corner, but we're definitely aware of it, and we understand that that's a challenge, and we're trying to do something to address it. The second one I was going to address is I think someone asked a clarification question about access. And so essentially what would happen is the state still controls whether or not you give someone a portal role. So if you give them access to the portal, there will be a set of functionality that is there by default, including the ability to issue, to do an FCR query or to initiate a locate request, just basic functionality. More advanced functionality or restricted functionality, such as the ability to initiate an other than child support request for locate, maybe an adoption and foster care or custody and visitation. That would be under the discretion of the state as to whether or not you wanted to provide that advanced functionality to a user. So some of those roles will still remain, but the basic functionality that is associated with just regular standard child support 4D casework would be available by default unless the state chose not to allow the user to have access to that, and then they would put what we call an exclusion role on. So essentially what that means is the only way you would have to assign roles is if you wanted to restrict the data that they saw. Hope that makes sense.
Jay, I think there was an earlier question too about the message center, and that the messages would be delivered based on the roles assigned to you or your.
So, okay, that's a good, yeah. So we're not going to go too deeply into the two-way communication application.
Yeah.
Because it's a parallel project that's running right now. But just a short answer about that is there would actually be two ways that you might receive messages, either directly to you as a user based on your user profile. And that would be like, I went on there and searched for Courtney Garnand and sent Courtney a direct message through the portal. The second option is the state has the ability to assign certain users to field certain types of questions. So depending on the type of inquiry that's coming in, then those may be routed to an individual based on the state's preference. So they could choose that they wanted Lisa Ellington to field any inquiries related to, case status, for example. I hope that helped.
I want to go back to where I was. Thank you, Jay. Okay. Also, on this participant tab, as you can see, when you have when you're on a particular participant, you can use some of the actions that are available for you. Again, this is a way of doing the consolidated view without having to enter in all of the individual participant information over and over again in each separate application. So you'll see here that you'd have, if you have the roles and access assigned to you, you would have the ability to do a 4D locate request, a DOD entitlement request, and also an other locate request. An other locate request could be, if you have that access, that would be things like parental kidnapping, adoption and foster care, youth in transition, and so forth. Okay. So you can see each one of these, you have the ability to just go ahead and do those actions straight from the case participants tab without having to enter into a specific application individually. If you would like to see what other cases a particular participant is associated with, you can go back and click on that case tab when you're on that participant's information. And now you'll see we were on Jane Doe. We click on case, and you can see that she's got a couple of cases on the FCR, one in Pennsylvania and one in Maryland as well. So this is a great way to kind of flip back and forth between the participants and their cases. This is an example that we were showing. When there's a plus sign next to the participant's name, you can see if there's other aliases, and you can click on that plus sign and it will show up as the other names. And then also, if there was a plus sign next to the social security numbers, you would see any other social security numbers associated with that participant, the type, and whether or not it had been verified or not. Okay. I think I'm going to go ahead, before we turn it over to Jay, to open it up for questions. Jay's going to go through each of the additional tabs so you can see the proactive information that's available through Consolidated Data View. But let's see if there's any questions.
So, Courtney, I think there were some. I've tried to track them. One of the things that was asked was about the search capability, and if there would be an option to search by either an NCP's name and or date of birth, or some combination of that. Unfortunately, again, our federal requirements indicate that we are only able to disclose information by way of a verified social security number. So that would not be an option, at least initially, and that's a restriction that we can't overcome. The other question was about, I believe it was about the verification of social security numbers, and you probably noticed the page that Courtney was just on showed the both the additional SSNs and the multiple SSNs. The question was whether or not the misidentified SSNs would appear here, and actually there's not a plan to do that now, and the reason being is that misidentified SSNs are assigned at the case level, and at the state level, and each state manages those. So they're not global like this information from the FCR. In other words, it doesn't apply across multiple states. If, say, for example, I were to set that as a misidentified SSN in Tennessee, it wouldn't also apply to Lisa in Texas or Courtney in Oklahoma. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions?
I'll defer to Maureen. Those were the ones that I saw.
Yeah, I think you captured all of them except for one. Can the SSN field be set to include the dashes? Makes it easier to copy and paste.
Oh.
Yeah, we'll make sure that all of that functionality is in place to avoid any kind of difficulty that one may have. So we'll read it and then bounce it against the table so we can accept it both ways.
Okay, that's a good answer. But you captured all the other questions, Jay.
Great. That's good to know.
Awesome. All right. Well, Jay, I'm going to turn it over to you, starting with the address tab.
Thanks, Courtney. So as Courtney mentioned, we at this point in the case information, we are basically looking at drilling down to each participant. So you'll notice at the top of the screen, in addition to the case information that's populated, the information that's populated for the non-custodial parent, on this case, John Doe. What we've done here, for the most part, is to take all of the disparate responses that we get, both internally from the National Directory of New Hires, from the Federal Case Registry, and from all of our external locate partners, and try to consolidate it in a way that is similar to what you would see in your state system. That was really the intent. So the first of those tabs that you'll notice is the address tab. So what we would do here is to display the various addresses that we've received from those sources by the source, and you'll notice the first one here is the National Directory of New Hires unemployment response. You would see the date associated with that address, so that you would have some sort of expectation or prioritization ability to see whether or not that's something that's new, or if there's something that maybe looks like a more fresh address. And then finally, you'll see the address type. So, and that is directly from the response. So if the respondent, in this situation, the unemployment Administration identifies that as a claimant address, that's what it would be displayed as here. So hopefully that would give you some expectations as well. One of the things that you'll notice as we move through these additional tabs is that these addresses are participant-based versus employer-based. So as we move to the employment tab, you'll notice that those types of addresses are displayed separately, not under the address tab. And that's to help to make sure that we keep a clean distinction between the employer information and the participant information. And then finally, you'll notice the little page option under View Details. That allows the user to actually pull the report from which this information was extracted. So for those of you who use the Locate application now, you probably would recognize the Locate response reports that we provide through the portal. All of those reports will still be maintained. So if there's anything else on that report that you wanted to cross-reference or see associated with this address, then that you would have that option. So the next tab is the employment tab. Now, there are quite a few things that we've done here by way of consolidation. We wanted to give as complete a picture as we possibly could of a particular individual's employment situation, inclusive of any termination information that we may have received through various sources like EIWO or through the employer portal, and any unemployment claims that we would have as well. You'll notice that as we move through the screens, unemployment is going to show up in a couple of places. And that's because it straddles the different categories slightly and really kind of needs to be called out in different ways. So for the purpose of this, you'll notice that we're going to have things like the employer name, the FEIN. If it's a quarterly wage statement, what quarter and year? If it includes wages or salaries in the record, we would include that in the summary. Any kind of date of hire information would be there as well.
There's a good question kind of on that topic.
Absolutely.
How current is the employer information and addresses? Meaning, are they updated as the worker updates, or is it overnight or monthly?
So that's a great question. So Maureen, these are all, there are actually two mechanisms. The NDNH information is available immediately upon request because OCSE maintains that. We maintain NDNH records for 2 years. So essentially the last 2 years of quarterly wage reports, new hire reports, and UI reports would be accessible through this screen. As for the external locates, like Federal Bureau of Investigation or Department of Defense, those are upon request. So if the user were to request those, then they would be returned in approximately a week, give or take a day, depending on the source.
All right, and then it's, sorry, a couple more. Will it show all this information for every state?
That's a good question as well. So the same.
These aren't my questions, by the way.
No, these are yours? Okay, great.
No.
So technically, the same disclosure rules apply as would apply now. So for example, in order for me to see information on a particular non-custodial parent, I have to have that person in a case in my state that I've registered on the FCR. So for example, if I'm in Tennessee, John Doe would have to be in my Tennessee case because we're going to cross-reference that before we disclose information. So provided that that participant is in a case in your state, then yes, you would be able to see all of this. But you wouldn't, for example, be able to see information on someone in Colorado's caseload if you weren't in Colorado. Does that make sense?
And then another question, I don't see any UC on here. Am I missing something?
All right, unemployment, I think we need to scroll down just a little bit, Courtney. I think we can only see there we go.
Okay, great.
So at the very bottom, you'll see the termination information. That can come from a few different sources, EIWO or employer reported directly through the portal, through the employer portal, that is. And those would be consolidated and listed here. And in addition, we would list the latest unemployment information so that you would have the ability to be able to determine whether or not, if someone's currently receiving unemployment, then it's quite likely that the employers that are listed above may not be a current employer. Hopefully that would help to create paint a clearer picture.
Okay, lots of more questions. I'll let you keep going and I'll kind of just keep track of these and then
Sure. Yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
So we're going to stay on employment for just a minute. So Courtney, if you could just go to the next slide. One of the things that we hope will be helpful is to provide additional information about the actual employer associated with that employer's FEIN. So from within the screen that we just saw, you would have the ability to select any of the FEINs that were active and be able to see the information that we have stored either through employer information updates through the employer portal, from the National Directory of New Hires, from EIWO, or from, I'm sorry, that is EIWO is the last one. So you'll notice here that the first of those tabs is the names and addresses. So any kind of additional addresses that may be associated with things like verification of employment, medical support notices, or workers' comp, if those addresses have been provided by that employer, then they would be displayed here. Courtney, if we can go to the next one. In addition, you'll notice that there's a subsidiaries tab. So any other subsidiaries of that particular company that are associated with that parent FEIN would be displayed here as well. So you could make that connection. And then moving on to supplemental information. These would be the employer's responses to various questions, such as whether or not medical benefits are provided to their employees, if a pension plan is available, information on how to request a verification of employment, whether or not they have a third-party administrator for their payroll, or if they're part of a professional employment organization. And then finally, additional contact information that this employer may have provided. So these would be the individuals that someone could from child support could reach out to for.
She's probably just talking to her ex-boyfriend again.
I'm sorry.
Oh, I think someone just got unmuted. We're good now.
Okay, no problem. So verification of employment. If there are any specific emails or telephone numbers or contacts that employer would like for you to reach out to directly for those particular types of inquiries. So before we move on to assets, Maureen, were there any specific questions about employment?
Let's see, there are lots of questions. Let's see, for tribal programs, do our cases have to be registered in the FCR in order for us to search and locate through FPLS?
That's a great point. So the actual access is a little bit different for tribal portal users. Tribal portal users, since tribes are not required to register their cases on the FCR, we take a little bit of a different approach. We gather the demographic information from your case when you first enter the request. It wouldn't be immediate with the exception of the FCR query if that person were to appear in a state already. Any of the additional information that comes from locate would be dependent on us verifying the name SSN combination for that particular individual. So it wouldn't necessarily be immediate, but within a few days when that response was back and we made that verification, then we would be able to provide all the information that you would see on the screen.
Okay. Another question, the FCR query does not currently require that the state querying the case have an existing case. Is that feature going away?
No, that feature will remain. The business rule for the FCR query is that the state is not required to have the participant enrolled in a 4D case registered on the FCR in order to see that very basic case information that the FCR query provides. What you wouldn't be able to see, and you cannot see now, are the detailed locate responses, such as the employment information, the detailed address information. It would just be the basic case information in the other state, including whether or not that state had an order on that case.
All right. And can you search directly by employer?
That's a good question too. So if you recall, Courtney demonstrated the drop-down application function. The e-employer application, which we just saw embedded, would also be left as a standalone. So if you were to just want to search by an employer's FEIN, without going into a specific case or participant, then that option will still be available.
Okay, that sounds like a good answer. And how can we get all 50 states to participate? That sounds like a little bit bigger of a question.
So let me make sure I'm understanding the question. Is it a matter of their participation in applications like EDE and Quick?
You've just gotten beyond my level of knowledge on this topic. It just says, how can we get all 50 states to participate?
So I'm gonna kind of try to guess what they're saying there.
Yes, it says yes and Quick.
Okay, great. So the answer to that question is we are always working with those states that are still not participating in applications that are voluntary, like Query Interstate Cases for Kids or electronic document exchange. But no, we will not be quote unquote force enrolling them when we move to this new environment. Our hope is that everyone will be participating with those by that point. But it still would be up to each individual state, because it does require them to do some programming in order to make that connection. And sometimes resources are not available to do that.
That sounds good. And this is a good clarifying question, because we've had about 30 to 40 people join since we started, but are we still on the 2B model?
Yes, that is correct. Yeah. So everything you're going to see here is the 2B model. Now, I will tell you this. It is a phased project, so it is likely that you will see elements of this released over the next few years. For example, the two-way communication feature that was you noticed on the homepage, the notifications, that aspect of it will be phased in to the existing portal, and then ultimately will be retained in the final portal. But these screens are definitely the final product, what our vision is for what it should look like when all of the enhancements have been completed.
Okay, and I know I said that was the last one, I'd let you get back, but one other question that seems to, I think we've had a couple of questions on, will we have information on the other caseworker direct number, not the call center?
Yeah, that's a good question. So please understand that we are limited to what we can share by what states share with us. So if it's the state's intent not to assign specific case worker information at the case level, then that's still going to be the case here. So we will share the best information that we have available, but it is definitely limited by what the states are willing to share with us.
Okay, great. I'll let you get back to it. I'm keeping track of ones that we haven't got to yet. So
thanks, Maureen. I appreciate it. So you'll notice that Courtney moved to the Assets tab. Right now, the primary information that you would see here are reports of lump sum payments that an employer intends to be paying out for an individual. So the hope is that by notifying the child support agency, if that is eligible to be withheld, then they would have an opportunity to notify that employer and let them know. What you don't see here is we're building an option in to be able to respond to the employer directly through the portal. So rather than just getting all the information and saying, here, contact me by fax or email or phone, you would have the ability to respond immediately within the portal and indicate what your intent is, whether or not that there was no intent to withhold and they could release that payment, or if you did plan to send either a lien or income withholding order, that it was on the way and they would know not to release that payment. In addition to that, we are going to be comparing in the background to determine whether or not that person appears on the debtor file as having an outstanding arrears balance that would make them eligible for lump sum payments. And if that is not the case, then we would immediately respond to that employer and let them know that without you having to intervene at all. So no one would even have to review that match. And we hope that will help you. So the next, and you'll see here are the lump sum details. And some of you who work in this area may be familiar with that, but this would be the screen from which you would respond and let the employer know. Okay, so the next tab is the benefits tab. There are quite a few different quote unquote benefit options that come back through our external locate partners and through the NDNH. Probably the most noteworthy are what we received from the Social Security Administration through the State Verification and Exchange System. This is where you would see if the participant was receiving or had received any benefits associated with either Title II or Title 16. And those would be, Title II would be your disability and retirement and survivors. Title 16 would be your supplemental security income. As you know, that those payments are not attachable. Part of the reason that we wanted to consolidate this here is to give you that complete picture. And I know that one of the conditions now for potential case closure is that that person is a recipient of Title 16, either alone or in combination with Title II. So hopefully being able to see this side by side would help you there. I think I saw a question about auxiliary benefits for the child, and that those would be displayed here as well, and indicating also the claim account number and the beneficiary ID code that would help you to determine whether or not that child was receiving those benefits as a result of the non-custodial parent's record or some other individual, another parent.
That seems to have garnered some appreciation and excitement. So.
Oh, good. Well, I'm glad. Yeah, we know that's an important, and I know, a lot of states have that built into their guidelines. So that's something that they need to know either on the front end when they're establishing or they may be giving direct credit for those recurring payments. So either way, hopefully this will be helpful and allow you to make that connection really quickly and determine whether or not the NCP is the source of those payments. You'll also see the Veterans Administration information here. Not really necessarily associated with this project per se, but we are actually in tandem working with the Veterans Administration, Veterans Affairs, to try to get additional information to help child support caseworkers determine whether or not the dollar amount associated with the particular individual is something that is attachable for child support. I know that's a sort of a mystery now, and we would just encourage you to continue to use the guidance that VA has provided in the past, and that is if you see any dollar amount there, send a wage withholding. They will sort it out on their end, and if any of that amount is attachable, then they will start deducting it. So it's better to cast the net and see if you catch something than to just let it go because you're not sure how much of it might be attachable. And then finally, the unemployment information, and this is the second place where we're talking about unemployment, and that is for the purpose of identifying the benefit amount, so that you can make a determination of whether or not you either want to do a direct income withholding order for those states that allow it, or whether or not you need to initiate a case with another state for those states that require that. Are there any questions before we go to the last tab?
Yeah, lots of questions. And you might have answered this. I feel like I'm at Johnson Command Center. I've got the chat box. And
You're doing great. You're doing great.
But is multi-state FIDM part of assets?
Okay, that's a great question. I love that you guys have got great questions. This is fantastic. It is not going to be in phase one. MS FIDM will remain as a standalone application. You can see that information by going into the application, but in phase two, it is our plan to roll that information into the assets tab, in addition to the insurance match payments. So ultimately, in addition to the debt inquiry, or excuse me, the lump sum payments, you would see both MS FIDM and insurance match payments there as well.
Okay, here's a question. So that will eventually replace SysNet, or it's CSE Net?
No. Since it's a batch application and it's required for system certification, it's not our intent to try to replace SysNet here. Definitely the proactive nature of SysNet is something that, is helpful. Many states have automated transactions built into their SysNet processes based on occurrences within their system, changes to case status, et cetera. That's not something we can necessarily replicate in the portal at this point. So it's not really intended to replace CESNET, but hopefully to act as a supplement, especially in cases like EDE or QUIC, where you may want to get additional information that about a case that you learned about through CESNET, but the CESNET transaction doesn't have the detail you need.
Okay, and will Fast Levy be included with FITM for phase 2?
That's a great question. I don't know that answer with certainty, but I can tell you that I'm in a good position to request it.
Okay.
I will put that on the to-do list.
Yes.
Well, perfect. Look at that. We're making connections. Okay, there are lots of other questions, but I'm going to let you keep going because I know we've got one you know.
Yeah, so I think we just have maybe one more slide left.
Okay.
Right? One more screen.
Yep.
This is and it's pretty quick and easy, but it's also a hot topic, incarceration information. I know that we as the feds have kind of been back and forth on this, and we've got a question out right now for state response about incarceration. One of the things that we understand is that the information that we have is missing a key element to allow you to make a determination of how you need to proceed with these cases, and that is the expected release date. So I wish I had better news. I can tell you that we're working with APRIS. You may recognize them from Justice Exchange or Justice Intelligence, I believe it's what it's called now, to try to get that missing information. We're also looking at directly interfacing with DOCs across all of the states, but that's a pretty monumental task. So, stay tuned. We understand that that's something that you need in order to make a decision about how to act with these cases, whether or not, it may be up for review and mod, or if the parents need to be notified of their ability to request a review. So that's something we hope to be able to provide here. But currently, in our current environment, the information from SSA State Verification Exchange System prisoner record and the very simple yes or no indicator from a Veterans Affairs response is the only information that we can provide now through the portal. So, we know it has limits, but we hope at least it will give you, a starting point so that you have the ability to reach out to the agency that's, or the facility that's listed and get additional information like a projected release date. All right, so I know I see some more questions coming in, and I wasn't able to capture all of them, Maureen. So I think that kind of sums up, Courtney, if I'm not wrong.
Yep.
Sort of the last tab at the participant level.
Yep.
So I think now we can.
I figure we'll leave this on. Yeah, we'll leave this on before we flip back to the contact information on the PowerPoint in case anybody had a question. We need to go back and look at a slide.
Yeah, so if we need to go to a previous screen, we're happy to do that as well. I don't know, Maureen, how we look on time, so you just keep us honest.
Yeah.
Well, we're pretty tight on time, but I said in the chat box that I thought I could probably twist your arms into staying a few minutes extra if anyone had.
Oh, we're happy to do whatever you need us to do, but we don't want to take up, if anybody else needs to drop, that's perfectly fine, but
right.
We'll go ahead and try to get as many questions in as we can. And of course, we'll put our contact information up at the end. Courtney, maybe put it up for just a second so if someone needs to leave, they can jot it down. And then we'll switch back. I see a question about voter records, so I'll go ahead and try to cover that one. We are under another project looking at additional information that we can obtain from an FCR perspective that we can share with states proactively. Voter registration is one of the elements that is under consideration, but definitely there are some challenges to that in that we would have to network with voters registration rolls in all 54 states and territories in order to get a comprehensive picture. So stay tuned. If there's other types of information that you think would be helpful, we certainly would love to hear from you. So, shoot us probably the best bet is to use the FPLS support email address at the top. But, if you want to contact one of us directly, we certainly, we talk every day and we'll coordinate with each other.
I see a question on here if they can get a copy of the slides, and yes, we've provided a copy of the slides, and we can also provide a copy of these mock-up screens. Just keep in mind, several people have said they wanted to share it with their coworkers that were not on the call, so just keep in mind these are draft, and if you do have any suggestions, or your coworkers that weren't on this call have suggestions or feedback, please have them contact us to let us know as well. But yes, we'll make those
Turn it down a
available.
little bit more for a minute so I make this call back to Terry. If I can find my thing.
I'm sorry? Oh, I think somebody came off mute. Okay.
Yeah, I think we just got someone. I'm also putting the survey in the chat box, and we'll also email that out to everyone that registered. But we'd love to hear if there are other OCSE topics that are, of interest, or speakers, or, more of this. There are obviously a lot of good questions. I sure got my workout today.
We appreciate it.
Yes, thank you, Maureen.
You've been a great mission control.
I don't know about that.
Problems.
Well, I'll let you wrap up, and then if anyone wants to stick on the line, I've got a couple other questions. If you or was that your wrap up? Lisa, did you have something?
Oh yeah, I was just going to add that until we get this new view, some people are using the portal for the first time. Maybe it's been a minute since you've been in it. We are helping states left and right. We're doing trainings with them, multiple trainings if they need it. So if your state needs some training on the whole portal, maybe just an application, please reach out to us. With COVID, we are trying to do everything we can to help states as much as we can. The other thing is we do have a new application that Jay mentioned that's coming probably around a year from now, fall of 2021, and that's the two-way communication. So do look out for information pertaining to that, and we'll try to keep you all in the loop as much as we can. Any channel that we have to share these new enhancements or applications, we're going to take it. So
we appreciate this forum so much.
Yes.
Thank you to WCSE, to
Lisa.
Maureen and Joe, and all of you, and everybody that came to the session.
Oh, great. Hey, Lisa, before I let you guys go, do you have, there are several questions about expected time frames for all of what we saw today. I think the problem with coming to people with all this is now they want it really bad. Right?
We know, and we try to be measured there and not, tip it too quickly. So just kind of a rough estimate. As Lisa mentioned, we've completed the initial analysis phase. The next phase is design. It estimated about 6 months. I believe it's scheduled to kick off in February of 2021. And then immediately following that will be the development phase. So I don't know exactly how long that might take, but as I mentioned earlier, it is our intent to roll the functionality that we can in the current portal into place in production so that you can start taking advantage of it. What you see on the screen is kind of the finished product. So incrementally, you should be seeing some enhanced functionality that some of the enhanced functionality you saw today, maybe just not the complete package.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
And we'll keep you updated through, e-flashes and things like that, to let you know as we make progress, and also through the portal. So we'll use things like the In the Spotlight section to let you know.
And the DFS update calls that we have as well. So
great. Well, with that, I'll say thank you again to our panelists, Lisa, Jay, Maureen. Oh my God, I just read my name. I felt like I was a panelist. And Courtney. And then thank you to Daryl for his support and helping us coordinate. He's been a valuable member of our WCSE planning committee. And so we appreciate all of your time today. And I did put the feedback survey in our chat box. We'd love to hear from you. And again, if there are topics like this or other OCSE topics or caseworker, whatever it is, we'd love to hear, WCSE would love to hear from you on future topics. So let us know what you thought and any ideas that you have. And with that, we'll let you get back to your day. And thank you again to our panelists.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Be well,
Thank you
everyone.
so much.
Thank you.